But I'd say that the cold calls are the base of our entire business. Like the first 3 months we spent in Flick's basement.
Still.
Cold calling, and it's still the best tool that we have. We still do it every day.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Founders in LA podcast. I'm your host Ethan Cole, and this is an opportunity to shine the spotlight through a product lens on some of the exceptional founders we have as part of the LA community in an unedited, one-take organic conversation. With us today is Louis Pascal Walsh and Flick Moradian. Thanks so much for coming to the studio, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Yeah, this is our first beverage, so I'm excited to have you guys here. But first, a word from our sponsors. Founders in LA is brought to you by Nearshore. Nearshore is a trailblazer in nearshore outsourcing and staff augmentation. With over 15 years of experience offering exceptional Latin American software development, data, product, and design talent for U.S. projects, Nearshore has revolutionized the way companies scale their teams. They stand apart with 50% female leadership, are trusted by companies large and small, and have been helping U.S. customers grow since before nearshoring was cool. Discover how Nearshore can power your tech goals and help you stay lean while scaling fast. Learn more at www.nearshore.com. That's www.nearsure.com. We're also brought to you by United Club. United Club is a co-working space that sets itself apart. With locations in El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, and Hermosa, United is where creativity flourishes. Unlike traditional offices, they provide an inspiring environment where ideas can thrive and businesses can grow. With United, there's no hidden fees, flexible terms, options for dedicated offices, and unlimited access to conference rooms, a photo studio, this podcast studio, plus standard 3D printers, and 24/7 access at any of their locations. They're local champions who support neighborhood businesses, open their event spaces to nonprofits, and celebrate art, music, and culture. Join United Club and experience co-working like never before. Learn more at www.united.club, www.unita.club. Our guests today are Louis Pascal Walsh and Flick Moradian. They are co-founders of Tequio, and would one of you fellows please just give us a 30-second description of Tequio?
Sure. So Tequio, or Tequio, is the first certified additive-free tequila in a canned cocktail. We have two flavors. We do a tequila soda and we do a blanco. So it's tequila soda made with tequila blanco and a tequila reposado. Both are just sparkling water, tequila, and a hint of lime. We've partnered with the Benuelos family. They founded Tequila Cazadores, which they sold to Bacardi in the early 2000s. And they have a new brand called Tequilas El Mexicano. And so we've licensed their Tequila Blanco and their Tequila Reposado for our canned cocktails. So really, it's a very clean, zero sugar, zero carbs, 100 calories. It's gluten-free naturally. So it's a very clean take on a tequila soda in a can.
And it seems to be following the trend of these alternatives to beer and wine and hard liquor that we've seen over the last few years. I know that it feels like the seltzer market really took off maybe 5 years ago, and that this canned experience for different ready-made drinks is now really taking form.
Absolutely. That's definitely what got us into it. Originally, and then I think for us we kind of started to see some white space developing in that kind of hard seltzer craze and the boom of canned cocktails piggybacking off of the hard seltzer kind of movement. And for us, we were like, it's still for the most part low quality when you think about these like lighter canned cocktails, and for us we were like, why isn't anyone keeping that really the focus on quality? Just because it's in a can, it doesn't necessarily have to be of a, loaded with sugar and super sweet and made with a low quality spirit. So that was kind of the impetus for us early on. It was like, what if we just brought really good tequila to the can space and like didn't hide it behind sugars or sweeteners or fruit flavors, and we just let the tequila speak. So that was kind of the idea, but that's not how it started out. Also, things change over time, and I think, what did we start with? Like a fermented coconut water originally was the idea. But just to get into the very, very beginnings of it all, if you want.
That's why we're here. Yeah, please tell us about
Flick
how'd you
and
break into it?
We're childhood best friends. We did not have a beverage background COVID hit, and I was working in the film industry, and Flick was in finance, and we're both from Michigan. We went back there to be with our families, and we're there. We're exercising. We're riding bikes. We're drinking beer, and I don't work for 6 months. The film industry shuts down. The industry just disappears overnight, and Flick's working remotely, so we have time to kind of exercise and talk about kind of the landscape of opportunity in the U.S. market, and we kind of look at canned cocktails. This is 2020, early 2020, and so hard seltzers are going crazy, and we were like, what if we found some way to do something cool and different in there? So that was the idea. But yeah, it started out fermented coconut water. It was horrible. It was like frothy. It was like almost like a milky consistence, unpalatable. And
how did that start? How did you decide for the coconut water?
It was like it was from a health perspective, I think.
Yeah, so we were trying to get like a better for you spirit.
Okay.
And June Shine, which is like a hard kombucha, was kind of like better for you at the time. And so we were trying to figure out like, okay, so beer is like totally horrible. And then we're like, well, coconut water is like hydrated and nice. And then we're like, we need to make it alcohol. So we like fermented it literally in Louis' kitchen for like a week. It tasted horrible. And they're like, maybe if we just do tequila and coconut water, that would be better. It ended up not tasting great. And then we just kind of zeroed out tequila is the healthiest spirit, and the seltzers were taking off. So it was kind of just like a perfect opportunity to do a tequila kind of cocktail in a can.
Yeah. And then just finding how do you differentiate yourself in a pretty big category. So that was, we had no idea what we were doing. We're like, conceptually, it's a great concept, like just really high-end tequila, but we didn't know anything about distilling tequila or anything about like doing business in Mexico. So that was, literally, we just cold called people in Mexico and we're like, hey, can you guys put tequila in cans in Mexico? And do you know a distillery that would be open to selling us tequila? And eventually we found someone who was like, yes, we can can tequila and we can make a few intros to a few distilleries. And that was that's how we met our partner, our now partners, just randomly through a tour, a lunch. They had us over for lunch. The Benuelos family was one of these distilleries, and they just like rolled out the red carpet. They're like, welcome to our estate. They showed us, gave us a tour. We had lunch with like quite literally their entire family and staff at the distillery, and it was just like a really cool moment. And then they're like, after lunch, they're like, okay, let's go taste tequilas, and their tequila was incredible. And I mean, it's a family that's done it before, and they have a new brand, and so they're like, we're going to launch in the U.S. market. We're very excited, and they had been kind of contemplating the canned cocktail market. So we came along at an interesting time, and fast forward about a year and a half after that first meeting, they came on board as fully fledged partners of ours, and have allowed us to license their certified additive-free tequilas for Tequio and the canned cocktails. So but I don't know, it was weird cold calling and being like having no idea, and you just show up and you're like, is this gonna work? Like, we don't even know. But it was definitely interesting, and it has worked out so far. But
yeah, when that guy told us yes, he could do it, we bought plane tickets the next day, and because we didn't believe him, we're like, all right, we're gonna be down there tomorrow, and he was like, okay, I'll show you. So
that's amazing. And so what I love about this story is that it's about like a lot of what we talk about here on Founders is doing, and how people are just kind of making things happen, how they're kind of scrapping by and trying to figure out, problem solving at an infinite level. So here you guys are in Michigan. You decided that, hey, let's do a healthy take on this, adult beverages, and you just go out there and try fermenting your own coconut water, realizing that was a horrible mistake, that people would probably not buy what you were building.
Yeah.
But then kind of staying with it and trying to figure a way out, and then identifying, hey, tequila is actually the thing that was working in this product. We tried many iterations internally. Did you guys give it to other people? Did you get to that stage you're like, oh, we can't even try handing this out to our friends because?
Yeah, I mean, the early stages were closed doors. Like, we knew the fermented stuff.
Water.
Yeah, we were like, this is so bad. If we don't like it, like, we can't even put it out there. But once we we found El Mexicano and the Benuelos family and their
Yeah.
tequila, then we literally just bootlegged a couple bottles over the border, brought them back to LA, and did a bunch of like at-home bench samples. And like that's where we kind of opened up to friends and family, and we were like, hey, do you like this at 5% alcohol, 7% alcohol, 10% alcohol, and do you like it with more lime or less lime? Do you like that? Was an interesting phase too, because that was really the quality component of the balance of the few ingredients that are in there, and yeah, that's kind of where we landed, was with good feedback. And I don't know, I like to think it's kind of also for us because we like it, and it wasn't out there before, but it's awesome, and obviously has to be a big part of it that other people really enjoy it, and there's nothing really quite like it out there, so we're glad to be kind of filling that gap in the tequila forward, tequila soda kind of category.
And one thing I want to double click into, so we don't overlook it. So you guys literally cold call different tequila distilleries down in Mexico, because you're like, okay, we have an idea, we need to find a supplier. We don't know anyone in this space. It's not like, it's not our family has been doing this for 2 generations, and you guys just kind of cold called. How did you pick the family decided that hey, we're going to hop on a flight tomorrow and talk to you?
So actually, we didn't cold call them. We were looking for like a manufacturer, like somebody that could make cans, and so we co-pack. We didn't even have the product yet. We just needed to find like someone who could put it into cans, tequila, and so we were just like Googling co-packers in Mexico, and one guy answered and said he could do it. So we went down there, and then he introduced us to. We went to a bunch of different distilleries. A lot of them were just kind of like factories, not very cool. Like they're literally just pumping out like hundreds of brands a day. Mm. And then we went to this beautiful estate, or he brought us to this beautiful estate, and that's where we met the Benuelos family, and it was just kind of like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Worked out perfectly.
But I'd say that the cold calls are the base of our entire business. Like the first 3 months we spent in Flick's basement.
Still.
Cold calling, and it's still the best tool that we have. We still do it every day. Because we cold called every major branding agency in the U.S. when we were, we'd gone down to Mexico. We were like, there's this tequila. How are we going to brand it? Like, maybe we hire the best to like build it. And we literally got on the phone with like the CEOs of these huge marketing agencies, and they're like, yeah, like you're going to need like $250,000 and like, and we have no money at the time for like the business, and we're like, oh, well, we got great feedback. I think that's the cool thing, is there was no chance we were going to work with these people, but they got on the phone. We're like open with their time and gave us feedback that allowed us to, make the next move, whatever it was. And so that's definitely, we still do that all the time.
So why don't you could you tell us a little bit more about the cold calling, and I guess, as early stage folks, there's a lot more selling than I think a lot of people anticipate when they're, when you talk about people who want to start a startup, like generally there's an idea or a niche or a problem they want to solve, and it's not until they actually kind of rubber hits the road, they're like, oh wait, I'm actually a salesman first. Like actually, that's the biggest part of my job, at least at this point in the company, and it changes as the company grows. Did you guys have experience in cold calling before I do it? And what have you learned? Like what's worked for you? What didn't work? What was it like making that very first phone call?
Like Louis mentioned, I worked at Morgan Stanley, so I kind of cold called, but not really. But what I did learn there is like persistence always pays off with like anything you're doing. And I just thought cold calling was kind of just the way to go about anything, because it's so much faster than email. We just go on a company website and find someone. I'd be like, all right, well, let's just call them right now and like get the answer. So it just, I don't know, it just worked out much better for us. And my advice for cold calling is, once you start to talk to people and the rubber hits the road, it's just kind of a waterfall effect where it's like Louis was saying, we called like all these branding agencies. And then they'd be like, okay, we need $1 million. And then we were like, all right, well, now we need to call VCs because we need to like get $1 million. Or like just things like that. And it's just, there's no barrier once you find a phone number or you just find the company's number to just ask for someone and talk to them, because mostly people will talk to you for like 5-10 minutes, and that's all you need just to like get your answers or maybe go in a different direction.
And I think like also you learn a lot about whether it's the pitch or the sell on those cold calls when you're getting, people are throwing questions that you maybe never asked yourself. And we're like, we hang up a call and then we're like, wait, like that person had a really good point. Like we didn't think about X or Y. And I think it was really a huge education component because you don't necessarily know a category that you're going into, and you don't know the questions to ask yourself about, category specific questions. And I think that was cool, were these people putting these questions in front of you that you weren't asking or even capable of asking yourself. So it was a big, even if you weren't going to do business, and I'd say 99% of the people that we ever cold called, we never did, or like couldn't do business with, and like it wasn't going to work, but we gleaned some sort of valuable information that helped us move forward. I'm trying to, what's the latest cold call that we've made?
I don't know, but we talked to basically every Fortune 500 like beverage CEO there was by just cold calling or cold emailing or figuring out how to contact them.
Was it surprisingly effective to reach that level of?
I mean, you think they're unattainable, and then you're like, oh, they're just like normal people. It's just there are a few more like gatekeepers to get to them, but then they'll spend 5-10 minutes on the phone.
Yeah, and a couple of them roasted us.
Yeah.
Like,
I will
very candidly.
We'll put we're very good about, like I said, persistence, but we're also good about like following up. The one this is super early on. The one person we didn't follow up as a thank you after taking time was this like mega beverage conglomerate CEO who was super nice to give us the time, and we just you get lost in emails, and we totally forgot to follow up, and like 3 days go by and he emails us and he was like, hey, like, I'm glad we had the chance to do it. It's an interesting product. I wish you luck. Just in the future, like, you should thank people and they give you some time. And we were like...
But much more abrupt.
It was quite intense. Yeah, I'm sugarcoating it kind of, but that was the only... And we learned that lesson. We've never, ever, failed to follow up on like a thank you for people who give us their time now. But that was a tough one because we were like, that's a rude awakening.
Well, again, and so we have a lot of people who listen to this who are starting out. This may not be their forte, right? So like, can you share a bit about the follow-up process too? So you cold call. Sounds like cold calling actually still works as a medium, and that you can surprisingly get to decent level of people just by picking up that phone. And there's something else I'll double click into in a minute, but what's the follow-up process look like? So you guys cold call someone, eventually you get through the gatekeepers, and maybe I'd like to double click into that too, but then what's the follow-up look like? How quickly do you do it after you talk to them? What is that? How has that been successful? What have you learned from your follow-ups?
We usually follow up within like an hour or like a day, just to say thank you and like maybe rehash the phone call, and then once you do that, we kind of leave it open as like, if we ever have a question, we'll send them a follow-up email and be like, hey, we just came across like, for example, agave prices. Like, could you maybe give us a rundown of what you're getting? And sometimes we'll get like a quick email back like, yeah, it's this. Boom. Thanks.
Yeah, like big tequila companies in the market that, it's just nice to have other people give you competitive pricing on agave. For us is the biggest kind of cost. And like I said, like calling the CEO of a company that has like 50 spirits in a portfolio, and they're like, yep, let me send this over to you, and then like they want to help the small guy. And so I think it all ends up via email eventually. It's just nice there's that like emotional component to hearing the fluctuation in someone's voice, and like I think people kind of buy into that as far as like connecting with people, and then it's easier to follow up on an email after that.
Or text. If somehow we've got like a crazy Rolodex now via text. And so it's really cool that like sometimes if you get off the phone with someone, instead of sending them an email, which is a little bit more professional, send the same thing in a text. And then if they respond to your text, it's like awesome, because then you can maybe shoot them a less, for like a more informal question next time or something. Then you get like a more personal rapport with them.
Yeah, it's more of a relationship that you're building versus I feel like they respond because you guys are just so scrappy. I'm sure those those levels are like, oh man, I love these guys. Like,
Yeah.
how did you get? How often do they ask you like, how did you get my number? Or how are we having this phone call right now?
They don't ask that, but I am a wizard at that. I can get in contact with anyone. I'm like the FBI.
That is awesome.
But also like sometimes like even Louis and I had to like check ourselves. Like I'd be at my house or we'd be separated and I'd like look at my phone and be like, oh my God, I have a text from that guy. I'd like screenshot it to Louis, be like, look at who just texted me. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's that the early stages when you're just designing it in your head and it's still that concept. It was helping us shape the business. Now I think it's obviously a lot less. The cold calls we have now are much less about like, hey, what do you think about this concept? And here's our strategy. And now it's like very specific, like people for some reasons. But at the same time, like locally in Southern California, we're always connecting with just business people, founders, entrepreneurs, just to like grab coffee with no intention. Like we had nothing, just we want to connect and like let's just meet. And because it's A, fascinating, and B, you never know where that's going to lead later on. And so that's been kind of the latest change from cold calling to more of just like in-person coffees left and right, as often as humanly possible.
So maybe this is kind of a good dovetail. We're talking about cold calling. Tell us about how you were able to get into some stores and get shelf space. Because again, that is one of the hard. You're in a very competitive market, as you guys know, right? And getting that shelf space is challenging, especially when you're a newcomer. So how did you overcome that obstacle?
Yeah, so it's actually similar to cold calling. You need the same persistence, but instead of actually like picking up the phone and calling these people, you just have to walk into their store. And I think a good story of this is how we got into Erewhon. They have a whole like kind of corporate process on their website, and I don't even know if I should really be saying this, but we didn't do that at all. We didn't go through like the whole corporate process, anything. I just went into every single one of their stores for like 3 months trying to find the buyer, and I'd drop off 2 samples every time I went in. And I would go in like 3 times a week for like months. And I'd run into her maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and then she would quickly like try to run away from me and like not even give me the time. But I'd just be like, if I have 15 seconds, I'd give her the pitch and I'd kind of tell her like what's going on. And I was like so hyper aware of which products were moving in the store and which ones weren't, that like once a company came across my like computer that went out of business, I went in the next day and I found her and I was like, I know this company's out of business, like there's a spot open, like give us a chance. And she ended up giving us a chance, and now we've been the best-selling drink there for like the last 6 months. But basically it's the same thing as cold calling. We just persistently went into all these stores, met people, and just kind of pitched us our product and asked for a chance.
But the first, like that is the ultimate, like for us, show of persistence working. But I think the first sell at the first store was hilarious now looking back, because we'd never done the in-store like kind of salesperson pitch, and you know they have questions that they ask salespeople all day long that they get. It's LA, it's like the hub for new products, so they get salespeople coming in with new products all day long every day. And we come in and we're just like, hey, like we're local. This was our first liquor store was in Venice. It was called Simon's Provisions at the time, and we had been schmoozing the guys for like 3 months before we even had a product. We're like, it's coming. We gave them samples of that we had made like locally in a bench sample, and like they tried it and they were like, yeah, we love it. Like, let's do it. And so it was great because we had pre-sold it essentially, and we'd socially kind of gained their trust, and it was more of like a neighborhood kind of act than it was really of like a business transaction. And then we went to like a few other accounts and we didn't really know the people, and it was more of like just strict business, like give me the numbers, what does it cost, like how can I discount it, what's the like how many cases do I have to buy to get a discount? And we like don't have any of the answers. we're like we weren't planning for any of this. Like I had to like whip out my phone and do the math like one time in front of a guy, and he was like, come on, like you need to know this stuff. And we're like, come on, like we just launched. So yeah, that's a big learning process there on the selling side. But like you mentioned earlier, you don't really realize that you're just it's a sales game. Like yes, there's a marketing component, but especially in the early stages, it's so much just sales focused. And I'm not a great salesperson, and I'll be the first person to say that. Flick will sell you, a broken pencil, and that's just you have to just kind of lean into that at a certain point and be like, it has to be part of the game. But
so how did you, Louis, go over? So Flick, I mean, I guess first question, Flick, is that natural, or is that something, a skill that you built up over time, or is it just kind of you're in a bigger bank, so maybe that was part of a training that you actually got?
Yeah, I'm not like actually great at sales, I would say. I'm kind of great at connecting with people, though, sometimes if I want to. Or I'd say if they want to connect with me, actually. But actually, like, sales, I'm really passionate about this, so it's, like, easy to sell. But, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I'm, like, the best salesman going into, like, certain scenarios. But if it's something you're passionate about, I think the sales just kind of comes natural.
Yeah, I think it's also, which we didn't really touch on, is the positioning of the brand. It's very premium. So these 4-packs at, like, let's say they'll average around $26 for a 4-pack. So where most seltzers and canned cocktails, seltzers and specifically, will like $15, $16 for a 4-pack. We're priced very high above that. It's really from a quality perspective. We're the only ones using the certified additive-free tequila. It's 100% de agave tequila. Plenty of the brands in the U.S. are using a mixto tequila cut with other sugar alcohols. So it's very much from focusing on the quality of the ingredients, and it adds a lot of costs, unfortunately. And so for us, selling is hard. Selling a product that's priced so far premium above what is a competitive set makes it like even harder. And the cool thing is, like, we can back it up, but there's this notion of like, well, that's really expensive. Like, we've never seen something that expensive. But for us, it's like, yes, but you've also never seen something like that's made with this, high-end tequila in a can. And like, so it's that, yeah, it makes us the selling component even tougher. But
but also, besides that, just being persistent definitely pays off.
Yeah.
Like, and that's probably something I learned at Morgan Stanley, or any of the books that you read, like Think and Grow Rich, or like all those books that are just like basically you get to the end and it's like, if you're just persistent, it works out.
Definitely.
Is that, and Louis, for you as not a sales guy put into a sales position, what is it? What got you over the edge, or what got you to a place where you're at least sustainable enough, or I guess persistence, but like,
yeah,
what helped get you through that persistence? Is it just be Flick? Is it?
I mean, Flick is definitely more persistent than I am. Like, people will say no to me, and I think I take it a little personally. But I think someone will be like, yeah, we're not interested, and Flick will be like, okay, and then he'll like come back like 2 days later, and like he'll just keep doing that until they say yes, and I'll just kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm sensitive, but I'm like, those people don't. Why don't they want it? Like, I've worked so hard on designing some of the packaging, and so I think, I think it's I have a more creative background, and so I think it makes me sensitive, and the sales are getting told no every day, like nonstop, and I think and I'm getting better at it eventually, just being like, no doesn't mean no. It means no today, but doesn't mean no tomorrow, and like that's been the biggest lesson, I think, for us in now having bigger conversations with chain retailers and stuff that are like, we're not interested. We now know that, like, okay, you're not interested today, but we're going to email you in 2 weeks, and we're going to give you the update, and maybe you'll be interested then. And just working every day towards building that kind of momentum to get those no's into yeses. Yeah. That's
incredible. And thank you so much again to the people who are building. I think this is super inspirational and incredibly helpful for them. So thanks fellas, for sharing with us.
We hope so. It's like sales 101.
You're doing it great. I mean, it's done you guys well. I mean, you broke into a really hard location, a really hard space, and you're doing it. So, what's next for Tequio?
For us, we're focused on Southern California, honestly. So we're just really this year's growth across Southern California. We want to make it a household kind of name. And if you like tequila sodas and you're ordering them at the bar, this is kind of the drink for everywhere when you're not at the bar and you want to have a similar cocktail, the same quality that you can expect at the bar. So for us, growing and making it more widely available, right now it's in like 50 independent liquor stores. It's in Erewhon, it's in Total Wine. But like we're launching in Whole Foods in about 3 to 4 weeks. That'll be big, and then just continuing with the other chain retailers with Bristol Farms and Lazy Acres and stuff like that to kind of make it more widely available. So the more stores you walk into, the higher the likelihood that you interface with our product. And and then marketing. I think that's another big part of it, is just driving awareness for the brand. That's kind of that's what's next. That's the plan, at least. So
that's awesome. If there's two fellows to make it happen, I think it's you two right here.
Yeah, I hope so.
So groundiness, I mean, you did a good job of grounding in LA, but we love to chat about your most LA moment. I imagine doing as much boots on the ground walking around as you guys are. You probably have one or two LA moments.
Yeah, we definitely have a couple LA moments. We do a lot of demos, so we run into like celebrities all the time. We've had a lot. One off the top of my head is when like Pierce Brosnan came over to me, and he was like my childhood hero because he's James Bond. He was super cool.
Yeah.
And he comes over and he was like literally James Bond in real life, and he like kind of grabs it and like tries it and he goes, "Good luck, mate," and like just puts it back. And I was like, "All right, thank you."
Yeah, maybe not the response you'd hope for.
Yeah.
But yeah, the tastings are funny. You see a lot of people. The longer you stand in stores, specifically Erewhon, the more you see like an interesting crowd of people, celebrities mixed in. I think the one LA story we were, as a joke, but also like kind of out of seriousness, we were like, what if Casamigos, Randy Gerber, George Clooney, they were the big gurus of early tequila, blowing it up, marketing to the masses, and we were like, this is kind of the next evolution of Casamigos in our mind. We're like, what if we like try and get it in front of Randy Gerber? And so Flick, like he mentioned, found the address and then the phone number, and we were like, I mean, they're not gonna take a call or sit down with us. At least we weren't able to yet. So we just dropped off a package. We dropped off like 2 cases at his house, and we left like a note that was a chat. Essentially, we were like, we're challenging you to a game of pickleball, because we'd read that he really likes pickleball. And we were like, if we'll challenge you to a game of pickleball, if you win, we'll give you a lifetime supply of Tequio, and if we win, you'll take a coffee with us and like you'll share your journey with the Casamigos and like your advice. And well, we haven't heard back yet.
Yeah,
but
if you're listening, Randy.
Yeah,
it's still out there.
The offer's on the table. But that was pretty cool. I mean, it's the only place you really have that opportunity. There's so many people and there's so much opportunity here that it's just like, it's hilarious if you look around and take the opportunity to go, jump on it. Who knows what will happen? So we just have to remind ourselves that every day.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you all for sharing. Appreciate the stories. Appreciate Sales 101 Flick and Louis. It's been really it's been great for folks to hear. Like to thank our sponsors again, Nearshore and Unita. I'd like to thank you all for listening to us, and if you like what you hear, please smash that subscribe button. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on Founders in LA.